Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. Bulldogs Live with Coach Kirby Smart. We are here in Athens with our friends from Whippley are here tonight. Good to see you folks. Let everybody hear you. Let them know you're here.
I told you they would be loud. I told you.
Y'all can be loud tonight. It's not a problem. We want you to be loud and as rowdy as you want to be. Just have a good time. We're going to take some questions for Coach Smart from social media tonight. We'll get some from you as well. And we'll talk Bulldogs football for about an hour or so as Georgia gets ready to face Tennessee on Saturday afternoon, 3:30 at Neyland Stadium in Knoxville, Tennessee. Dogs go back on the road, and you heard Coach Smart. He's here ready to go. And Kirby, a good week of practice for you guys as you get ready for this last regular season SEC game.
We had a slow start to the week, I thought. It was like a little bit pulling teeth, and a lot of the leaders spoke to the team and talked about the importance of our practice habits, and it improved Wednesday and Thursday, I thought. And it wasn't a lack of respect for Tennessee. I think they're tired. I think guys are they've had some really tough stretch right here in a row, and I thought they bounced back, and we tried to cut back some to get their legs underneath them and get the guys ready to rock and roll. I know they'll be fired up to play because it's one hell of a challenge to play at this place. And if you're a competitor, you want to be at your best when your best is needed.
November's been quite the challenge, but you guys have answered the bell each and every week.
Yep, so far it's been some good games and some big moments and some big rivalry games, and that's what it is in the SEC, week in, week out. There's no rest for the weary.
How did you feel about last week's performance and coming off of that one?
I felt, really good. Offensively, I thought we dominated from the start and played really well. Had the one unfortunate turnover there before the half, but it was us being aggressive, and I don't think that's a mistake to be aggressive. Defensively, again, not our best outing, but we corrected some things, we fixed some things, and the guys played really hard the second half.
That seems to be kind of, I don't want to say a trend, but it's happened more than once. The opposition gets an early score, and then our defense figures things out, or you guys make adjustments, whatever is going on the sidelines, and then we don't hear from they don't score any points for a while. And that happened last week against Ole Miss. It happened against Missouri, I think, or some of the other teams this month. So, once you guys kind of get settled in, you play very well.
Yeah, I think it had a little bit more to do with the butterflies of the two new backers. The last game was a lot of that. Every game you can make a different excuse, and at the end of the day, offenses are good. And offenses a lot of times stay ahead of defenses, and it takes getting adjusted to that, and we just got to do better.
Yeah, C.J. Allen, your freshman linebacker, played a nice game for you, led the team in tackles, had a sack, and he really gave you some good minutes and some good snaps.
Yeah, he's one of the reasons we didn't get off the field on the first drive, though. We had a 3rd and 14 or 3rd and 12, and he busted the coverage. He played great, but that opening drive, butterflies, he made a couple mistakes.
Right.
Raylan made a couple mistakes, and those things happen with freshmen, and you just got to you got to say, hey, you know what? That's what we're dealing with. They're the best we got right now, and we got to keep getting those guys better.
Is he a real coachable type player? He's open to all of that stuff. I would imagine the type of young man that he is, he's certainly open to the coaching and wanting to get better.
Yeah, he's a great kid. He takes notes every day. Nobody works harder than C.J. Allen does to prepare.
It's Georgia and Tennessee on Saturday afternoon at 3:30 in Knoxville, and we'll be there starting at 11:30 for our coverage of Bulldogs football here on the Bulldogs Sports Network. So we invite you to join us and stay with us tonight. Our show here in Athens is brought to you by Wells Fargo, an official sponsor of the Georgia Bulldogs, and our questions from social media. The hashtag is AskCoachSmart. That's brought to you by Greenpoint Ag. Greenpoint Ag is farmer-owned and locally focused. Our friends from Whippley are here tonight, and we thank them for being here. Hope they have a good time, and you as well. Come on back. We'll get to questions for the coach right after this on the Bulldogs Sports Network. Georgia Bulldogs Sports Marketing provides your inside connection to UGA athletics with exclusive updates and behind-the-scenes content, including the Kirby Smart All-Access TV show. You can follow at UGA_GBSM. Our show tonight presented by Wells Fargo, an official sponsor of the Georgia Bulldogs, and our friends from Whippley are here. We're going to take your questions from the hashtag AskCoachSmart. That's brought to you by Greenpoint Ag. We've got some questions ready to go that folks sent in all during the week, and we're going to take a question from our audience first. Coach, this is Zach from our audience here tonight. Welcome to the show, first of all, Zach. Go ahead with your question.
Absolutely. Hey, Coach. There was a great sideline shot from this Ole Miss game of Lad hitting the Ole Miss corner with a stuggo, getting wide open, and on the right sideline. He seems to be one of the better route runners you've had in the program, since you've been here. He was kind of a late signee in that 20 class, but wasn't really receiving high school punted, quarterback, safety. What's kind of allowed him to develop into such a complete receiver, someone who's effective inside, outside? And what can you kind of speak to for his development, his traits that make him so effective?
Well, first of all, he has elite toughness and competitiveness, and that's one of the first things you look for in a receiver. He has separation skills, so a receiver can be measured how fast they come in and out of a break. So when we measure acceleration on our GPS, he has elite acceleration. He's fast, but fast is not everything. Acceleration, starting and stopping and changing direction is what makes him really good. He comes in and out of breaks. He's quick. And, we saw that. I remember sitting around when he was in high school, and I was just looking at Twitter, and I was like, man, there's this kid that's up there in North Georgia that's playing at these camps, and he's quicker than everybody else. He comes in and out of breaks. I'm like, man, he must just be small. We went and watched him play basketball. He had good size. His dad was a really good athlete. I remembered his dad. He came out the same year I did out of high school, and we came on visits to Georgia together. And I thought, man, I know that kid's name, McConkey. And I knew his dad, a great family. And we thought he could be a really good player, and he's turned out to be great. A lot of that development goes to, Cortez was here with him, B-Mac's been here with him, but a lot of the credit goes to him and how hard he works. And I think Coach Muckin did a great job with him. He had coached receivers for a long time, so he helped develop Lad, and Mike and them have continued to use Lad's skill set, but he is a special player that loves the game.
Zach, thanks for your question. Appreciate it. Let's take another one from our audience. This is Matt. Hi, Matt. Welcome to the show. Go ahead with your question.
Thank you, Scott. How you doing, Coach?
Good.
My question is, why and how did you choose the visor to be your signature game day look?
I don't know. I didn't. I feel like I didn't choose. I chose a visor like a long time ago. Like a long time ago. I love golf, and I've always worn a visor when I played golf. So that kind of just carried over. I really don't even know, going back to Valdosta State and FSU, if I wore visors or hats. I really don't know. But I've always liked visors. And, every time I go play golf, I always see Spurrier, and he tells me he appreciates me carrying on the visor tradition. So
I got the splits here. When you have not worn a visor as the Georgia coach, 83% win percentage, lower than red, black, and white visor percentages there. So, I'd say stick to it.
Stick to it, yeah. I don't know when I didn't. If I didn't, that means I probably forgot it, so it wasn't on purpose.
Matt, thanks for your question. We appreciate it. Yeah, there's no turning back now from that, right?
Right.
Tonight's show is presented by Wells Fargo, an official sponsor of the Georgia Bulldogs. Hashtag Ask Coach Smart is brought to you by Greenpoint Ag. And let's get to one of those questions from Logan in Columbus, Georgia. How proud of you are you of Kendall Milton's performance last Saturday?
Oh, man, just to see that smile on his face. He is such a great young man. His parents are great people. He's hardworking. He's been through so much. And to see somebody have success in their senior night in front of that crowd after all he's been through, it just warms my heart because I know what he's given to this program. I know how hard he works, has leadership is. He's high character, a great student. I mean, Kendall Milton's just all-around great person. And for him to end it that way on senior night, it was really special.
You had some really good blocking on his explosives, and he gave you a few of those as well. Only had 9 carries, but 127 yards.
Yeah, I tell you, there was some great holes opened up, but he ran through some people too. He ran through some people and made tough runs.
Jennifer in Nashville, Tennessee, were there any key defensive adjustments after the first quarter last week? And she says, great win.
I don't know that we made a lot of adjustments. I think we settled down some. I think some games we've had to make adjustments, but it wasn't about adjustments as much as it was settling down and getting used to their tempo and stopping the run and controlling the line of scrimmage.
Is that kind of what you anticipate this week? I mean, you're going into a stadium that's kind of like no other in the league with the number of people that they can jam in it and the noise that they can make. It might be situation where there's some jitters and some butterflies as you get ready for this one.
Yeah,
as
I
well.
don't want to anticipate them. I can promise you that. I'm not forecasting them, but we'll be resilient no matter what happens. They're a fast starting team, but so are we. So we want to go play well from the jump, and that's the expectation.
This is Bulldogs Live with Coach Kirby Smart. We're taking your questions from social media tonight. We're taking some questions from our audience as well. We'll step aside for just a moment, come back for more of the show right after this on the Bulldogs Sports Network. Today, taking your questions from social media and some from our audience. And let's grab one from our audience. This is Sherry. Nice enough to be here tonight. Sherry, go ahead with your question for Coach Smart.
Sure. Great. Hi, Coach. How are you?
Great, Sherry.
May have to think a little here.
Uh-oh.
What is your favorite game as a player and as a coach?
Yeah, I always use the same one as a player. I always say the Florida game because we were 17-point underdogs and we beat them in Jacksonville. But if I had to say the next favorite one, it might be the overtime win at Auburn. I had a lot of friends and family that were Auburn fans, so I think we went to like a 4 or 5 overtime game at Auburn. And I was from South Georgia, so it was near there, and it meant a lot. I had a lot of friends that were going to school at Auburn at that time, so that game meant a lot as a player. As a coach, I can't pick just one. It's
Wouldn't
impossible.
be one of the national
Well, I mean, yeah,
championships?
you would think it would be one of those. I mean, the problem is there's not just one, so you don't want to just
No.
pick one. And there's been it's so meaningful to have those seniors' last games have meant a lot. And, I value even going all the way back to the TCU win in the first bowl game because those kids went through so much. I remember sitting in that locker room. We had come back and beat them in a really cold weather. There were very few people there, and it meant a lot to those kids. That win was pretty special to me.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sherry. Appreciate you being here tonight. Let's grab one from hashtag Ask Coach Smart. Do you think Neyland Stadium, this is from Tom in Jefferson, Georgia, do you think Neyland Stadium is one of the most hostile environments in the SEC?
Absolutely it is. But I don't know which one of them in the SEC isn't hostile. So, it's like they're all that way. And
Vanderbilt.
You think back to, yeah, I look at that as a friendly home game sometimes. You get the home fans, but the everything else. I mean, it was hostile in Missouri last year.
Yes,
it's hostile when you go to Baton Rouge. It's hostile in Auburn. But Neyland does have a special feel to it in terms of the atmosphere they create, the checkerboard they create, the amount of people they have in the seats. Man, it's unbelievable.
they cram them in there. They do. Over 100,000 expected this weekend. Cameron in Atlanta. What are some things you do in practice to prepare for that crowd noise? You've talked about that a lot this season.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in year-round crowd noise. It's not something you get ready for a week. We do it in spring practice, 3 days. We do it in fall camp, 4 days. We do it when we get ready to go play at home or the road. We deal with it on defense. We're a big communication defense, so at home games we struggle to communicate, so we practice with crowd noise. And when we're doing it for one side of the ball, the other side of the ball has to do it too. So we consistently do it. We try to do silent things where the quarterback has to whisper real low, and everybody has to listen hard. So when you listen hard, it makes it harder to hear, and you have to focus more. But nobody's perfect at it, and we certainly don't have a patent on it. So we try to do the best job we can.
Hey, Cameron, thanks for your question. We appreciate it. We'll grab another one from our audience. Please say your name for me. I don't want to mispronounce it.
It's Rocky.
Rocky, okay.
That's easy.
Welcome to the show. It's not spelled like that. Come on. Give me a break now. Go ahead, Rocky. We appreciate you being here.
Coach Smart, you seem like a pretty busy guy. How do you balance your work-life balance with your wife, with your children, and work?
Yeah, that's probably one of the hardest things to do. I don't know that there's a balance. Balance means, I guess, 50-50, but everybody defines balance differently. It ends up like 80-20, 80% work, 20%, family and kids. So we try to find balance on Sundays. We actually use this room for a family dinner in which all the coaches bring their kids and their wives up, and they get to eat, and, players can stop by here. It's really a nice deal for the families to get to spend time with them on Sundays. The off season, you got to be present. You got to when you're down, you got to be down, and you got to spend time with your family, and that's where I try to catch up, to go to my kids' sporting events and things like that. Thanks for asking.
Rocky, thanks for your question. We appreciate you being here, and I'm glad I didn't mispronounce your name. once you told me how to say it. We'll step aside for just a few minutes here. We'll take a break and get to more of your questions, both from our audience. Our friends from Whiffley are here tonight, and we're taking questions from hashtag Ask Coach Smart. It's brought to you by Greenpoint Ag, farmer-owned and locally focused. We'll step aside and back for more with the coach right after this on the Bulldogs Sports Network. Bulldogs Live with Coach Kirby Smart is presented each week by Wells Fargo, an official sponsor of the Georgia Bulldogs. And a reminder that men's basketball will be on the Bulldogs Sports Network tomorrow afternoon. The Dogs are in the Bahamas Championship down in the Bahamas. And the next game is tomorrow afternoon, 3:05 airtime here on the Bulldogs Sports Network as Georgia faces Miami. And they'll play again on Sunday against either Kansas State or Providence, and the time of that game to be determined. But weekend games for the Bulldogs basketball team, November 17th, that's tomorrow, and then Sunday the 19th, and a big football game wedged right in there between the two, Georgia and Tennessee this weekend in Knoxville at 3:30. Let's grab a question for Coach Kirby Smart from our audience here, from our friends from Whiffley, and this is Debbie. I knew how to say that one because I can read it right off the screen. Debbie, welcome to the show, and what's your question for Coach?
Coach,
Hey, Debbie.
you've had 27 wins in a row. I'd like to know how you celebrate a victory.
Going home to the wife and kids, to be honest with you. I love walking off the field, getting to see them and talking to the team in the locker room. We celebrate at the house, maybe a glass of red wine, and enjoy it for however long it is. It's something that the early games you enjoy for like 6-7 hours. The games like last week, you don't get to enjoy any, because when you go to bed, you got to wake up the next day and start on the next one. So you don't get to celebrate long in this business. As we say, humility is a week away. So,
Debbie, thanks very much. Thank you for being
Debbie.
here. Let's look ahead to the weekend. It's brought to you by the Governor's Office of Highway Safety. The penalty for getting a DUI can cost up to $10,000. That's why the Governor's Office of Highway Safety says drive sober so you won't get pulled over. All right, our look ahead to Georgia and Tennessee. And, Coach, just a couple of things that jump out to you as you think about the weekend game coming up.
well, special teams jumps out at me. They're really good at it. I can tell when a team watch the tape on Sunday immediately, can we win that third of the game? And I'm like, wow, they're really good. So it's going to be a war. They've got the great punt returner. They do an elite job on their kickoff coverage. Their punt unit is really good. They got a guy to kick both ways, so they steal field position yards. You're not getting these. You're not going to steal a block kick. You're not going to steal one of these turnovers. They got really good players on special teams. So that jumps out. Their offense is very potent, very up tempo. They're going to get a lot of snaps. They don't turn the ball over very much because they're not in space much, and then their defense is playing at a high level. So I have a lot of respect for their team. We've got to play well. It's a hard place to play, and when you go on the road in the SEC, people don't appreciate how hard that really is.
That's our look ahead with Coach Kirby Smart, and this is Scott from our audience, our friends from Whiffley, with a question for Coach. Go ahead, Scott.
Yes, Coach, got a question. What is your coaching philosophy and strategy for building a successful football program?
Ooh, man, we got all night. I could talk a long time about this. My strategy is a lot of hard work, a lot of really good kids and good players, and an organization that believes, in doing it the right way. We're very fortunate to be at Georgia. Okay, let's be honest. We have really good state of Georgia high school football. So the geographic area around us supplies us with really good football players. So if you can get good football players, get them to buy into something that is bigger than themselves, you can build something special. It's no different in your line of work. If you can find people that are willing to make sacrifices and buy into team concepts, the sky's the limit. And we try so hard to sell those values, and we don't get everybody to buy into them. And I can accept that everybody's not going to buy into it. I'm just trying to get everybody closer to it. So if they're way over here and they're a me guy, I'm just trying to get them to the middle. And if they're in the middle, I'm just trying to get them over here to the side that's the team. And if they're completely bought into the team, I'm trying to get them around everybody. So it's like a constant pursuit for us.
Scott, thanks for your question. Thank you for being here. Joni sent in this question from the hashtag Ask Coach Smart. That's brought to you by Greenpoint Ag. Joni in Athens, do you and Peyton Manning keep in touch?
We do periodically. He's a very good person, good good man. Just enjoy my relationship I got to have with him. We went on recruiting trips out of high school at the same time, same year. I was actually at the Colts for a brief cup of coffee. He was there for a lot longer, but I got to be with him for a little bit there, and then we've always kept in touch. And so the times that they've come here and played, he comes. I see him in the off season usually once or twice, and we text a lot. He's been a good friend, and he's a good person.
What are the, without getting too deep in your personal business, but what are your conversations kind of like when you chit chat with each other?
Anything. I mean, it could be somebody we ran into. You know, he runs into a Georgia player. He had a picture. He and Terrell Davis's son are playing on a team together in Denver, and you know, Terrell Davis is a big dog, and he shot me a message. He's hung out with Andrew before. He has a son around Andrew's age, so they got to hang out last year at the game here, and just anything that's relevant.
Oh, good deal. Thanks for that question, Joni. Jake in Commerce, Georgia. How much of a factor were our fans in Sanford Stadium against Ole Miss last week?
Fans are always a factor. I mean, it certainly impacts and helps us, whether it's third downs, crowd noise, communication, just momentum. I mean, it's overwhelming when you have that momentum of a great play and the swell of the crowd, how it makes us rise up and play. And, you know, the fourth quarter, the lights, it's just a special time. So the people being there certainly make it special for the players.
Georgia and Tennessee in Knoxville this week. Dawgs on the road. We'll be with you at 11:30 for our coverage of Bulldogs football right here on the Bulldogs Sports Network. Hope you can join us. Our show tonight, Bulldogs Live with Coach Kirby Smart, presented by Wells Fargo, an official sponsor of the Georgia Bulldogs. We'll take more questions for the coach right after this on the Bulldogs Sports Network. This is Bulldogs Live with Coach Kirby Smart. We're taking your questions from social media and from our audience here in Athens tonight. And dog fans, if you want to do an NIL deal with a dog, go to georgiadogs.com/NIL to connect with a student athlete on a sponsorship, a commercial, an appearance, an autograph session, and more. georgiadogs.com/NIL. And our friends from Whipfly are here in Athens tonight as our guest audience. And this is Wes with a question for Coach. Hi, Wes. Welcome to the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
What's up,
Coach,
Wes?
we're back-to-back national champions. What is something you've learned from the last 2 years' teams that you've instilled in this year's team to make sure we're three-peat?
It's hard to maintain. It's hard to keep the edge. It's a challenge. You know, it's not something that you do as a leader of the organization. It's not your duty. It's not the burden you carry. It's the players that have to carry that. And I think they've learned from the previous two teams that you don't get places without doing something different. And there's a lot of carryover between this team and last year's, but there are new leaders. There are guys that are stepping up, and they learn from the other ones. I can't say there's anything specifically that I carried from the previous two because I don't like doing that. I like recreating ourselves each year into who we are, and I don't like comparing them. So many people want to compare them to each other, and each team is independent of the previous. And the personality of this team has been so different than the other two. I mean, they've been so resilient, but they haven't necessarily been dominant, not all the time. They've just been resilient, and I'm really proud of what they've been. Thanks.
Wes, thanks for being here. Appreciate your question. Lawrence in Jacksonville, Florida, sent this one in on the hashtag AskCoachSmart, brought to you by Greenpoint Ag. Lawrence wants to know, Coach, what kind of legacy is this senior class leaving behind?
Well, it's a hodgepodge. I tell people all the time, there's no definition of a senior class anymore. A senior class is you know, it could be the guys that are 3-year juniors that may come out early, and then there's the guys that are 4 years, and then we got guys that are 5 years, and then we got guys potentially that can be 6 years. As long as this COVID thing is around, they have that extra year. There is no senior class. I mean, it's just a group is what I call it, and they're not all the same class. But you know, they leave behind a legacy of setting a really good standard. Some of that standard they inherited because the group that left 2 years ago started it for them, and they've carried that tradition on. And it's not a burden to live up to. It's a expectation that you have to be great, to be excellent. You know, we're in constant pursuit of the best version of ourselves. That's all we're trying to do. We're in constant pursuit of the best version of ourselves and try to stay away from everybody else's standard and make our own.
Nathan in Hartwell, Georgia, from our social media, hashtag AskCoachSmart. Did you ever consider Tennessee coming out of high school?
I was not good enough for Tennessee. They were rolling when I came out of high school, and they didn't want anything to do with me. I was a long way from Tennessee. So, no, I didn't consider them, and they didn't consider me. So feelings were mutual.
All righty. Well, there you go. Sam in Washington, Georgia, what emotions are tied to the tradition of this particular rivalry?
Well, I give the speech all the time. It seems like every week on the radio show we talk about rivalries and where they are, but it's really relative to where the opponent is. So if you draw a line around our state, you know, the 5 states that touch us, that we're contiguous with, are very unique. So the Lad McConkey and Tate Ratledges of the world, this is their big rivalry because they're North Georgia kids. They grew up across the state line from Tennessee. And there's a lot of Tennessee fans in North Georgia, and so you run across that a lot. And you know, it's a great rivalry. It's a historic rivalry. It's one that was really competitive there in the 2000s when I wasn't here. It went back and forth a lot, but you know, everybody has their team, and they have their reason for who their team is.
Now, what about a kid like Gunnar Stockton, who's from the far northeast corner of the state, and you know, his county borders South Carolina and North Carolina, and Tennessee's just over the mountains. What's his big rival?
He's just confused. He gets to pick his.
All right, good answer. Lucas in Duluth, Georgia. How much does Lad McConkey practice that double move route?
Oh, probably not a lot. He probably did a lot as a kid. That's the route everybody always runs as a kid, you know, the old out and up, and you just juke them and get them. But Lad's been here for a while, so they've always had that in, always carried it. And, you know, week to week, we work it depending on who we're playing, how the corner plays, what the offensive coordinators see. And the timing of it's really important of when you run it and setting it up. So Lad's really good at that, and that's another one of those acceleration plays. He can stop and start and really get going fast.
Yeah, that particular play, and I'm sure most folks know which one we're talking about, but I mean, it reminded me of when I was a kid and we used to play in the backyard, and we called it pick up and smear. You know, you'd have the ball and you'd just tackle the man with the ball was another name, but that one didn't have as much panache, I guess, with it. But you just run all over the field until somebody tackled you. And that's kind of what he was doing there. They couldn't get him on the ground.
No, they couldn't. If Carson had thrown it out there, it would have been obviously a touchdown. He threw it a little bit behind him, but it's a nice play by Lad.
Fun to watch him play. Mike in Greensboro, Georgia. Do you feel like Brock Bowers raises practice competition because of how hard he goes?
Yeah, there's a lot of our kids on our team that do that. I mean, the level he practices at is so hard. We have to protect Brock from himself a lot of times. Because he will practice himself to total exhaustion, and you know, you want guys to be fresh for the game, and he'll run himself to like a lab, man. He'll go, and he won't stop.
From what you know about him, has he just been driven like that since, you know, childhood, or is that just something that's developed in his time here?
I would think it's from his childhood. He definitely came here with that trait. I can't actually say when it started or how it started, but it didn't develop here. He had that when he came in.
Well, we're all glad he does, certainly.
Yes, we are.
That's another guy that we enjoy watching play. Georgia and Tennessee on Saturday at 3:30. Airtime on the Bulldogs Sports Network will be 11:30. We've got a couple more questions for Coach and one more segment to do with Coach Kirby Smart before we turn him loose. Our questions tonight, hashtag AskCoachSmart, brought to you by Greenpoint Ag, farmer-owned and locally focused. We'll come back right after this on the Bulldogs Sports Network. Welcome back, Bulldogs Live with Coach Kirby Smart, our show presented by Wells Fargo, an official sponsor of the Georgia Bulldogs. And don't forget about GeorgiaDawgs.com for all of your information needs when it comes to Georgia sports. From tracking event results to exclusive behind-the-scenes coverage, GeorgiaDawgs.com has you covered. And our friends from Whippley are here tonight as our audience, and we've got a question from Shane. Shane, go ahead, and thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks for my question, Coach.
Hey, Shane.
What player that we may not have heard about or know about right now is most poised to be our next leader or breakout player?
Man, these are setups, boy, because, I mean, you can't answer that question. I mean, the media asks me that kind of stuff, and I get mad at them, so I got to be nice to you. But, like, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, the next breakout player, if I knew they were going to be a breakout player, man, they'd be playing. They'd be breaking out there every Saturday. There's a lot of talented young freshmen. The problem with saying that is you give one kid that, and he carries a burden because everybody says, "Whoa, Coach Smart said that's going to be the next Brock Bowers." No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is there's a group of young kids that are working really hard, and every one of them is right where they should be. So I watch these O-linemen go every day. There's 4 or 5 freshman O-linemen, and, man, they're getting better. They're out there working from day one to now. I'm like, man, those guys could, like, go in a game and get some work done. They're getting better. The backs, they're getting better. The defensive backs are getting better. Damon Wilson, Gabe Harris, Salmon Pimpa, they're getting better. They're just not physically ready to do what the players that have been in our program are doing. Unfortunately, in college football, they got to get ready sooner. And they'll be 1s and 2s next year when they're 2s and 3s this year. It's just the way it goes, and that's what separates really good programs from programs that go in the portal to get answers. We want to develop our answers from within.
Shane, thanks for your question. Thanks for being here. Terrence, hashtag Ask Coach Smart. This one in from East Cobb, Georgia. Terrence says, what can you say about the chemistry and connection of our offensive line unit?
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes to what Coach Searles has done with that group. He's had kind of a different rotating starting lineup. This guy's in, this guy's out, this guy's in, he's in, Monroe jumps in, Mims is out. He's gotten it to where, we got 3 to 4 tackles playing, and we got 3 to 4 guards playing, and we got 2 really good centers. And when you've got that kind of depth, and nobody cares who gets the credit. I thought it was really big last week that the O-line rolled and they stayed fresher. And we played those 3 guys, and there was not a bunch of whining and crying. They're all going to get their time. They're all going to get their tape. Just because you don't play every play doesn't mean that you can't be successful, and they didn't have the egos.
And there was very little drop-off, if any, last week. I mean, as you said, you guys rolled, and those linemen rolled in and out to perfection just about.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to have the depth so they can all play.
Coach, thanks for your time. We appreciate it, and good luck in Knoxville this weekend. We'll see you in Tennessee.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Go Dogs.